Good afternoon or good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Yetunde Dania. I'm a solicitor, also a partner at Trowse and Hamlins LLP, and I'm also head of our Birmingham office. I've been asked to speak to you today about the need for diversity in the legal profession. To me, it's quite obvious that diversity is needed. The profession, after all, represents everybody, whether that be in their private lives or in their work lives, organisations, and so on. Diversity is needed because a diverse profession brings about diversity of thought, diversity of experience, and of course, innovation. So I feel that it's a big failure of the profession not to engage in embracing diversity more than it has done in the past. However, I'm pleased to say that things are finally changing. So just to tell you a little bit about myself, it's quite obvious that I'm a Black woman. I was raised by white English foster parents from the age of 1. My Nigerian birth parents were always in my life. I grew up in an area called Great Yarmouth on the East Coast, which is not known for being diverse. And when I decided that I wanted to be a solicitor at quite a young age, actually, my teachers tried to dissuade me from pursuing my career. And the one thing that's always made me very determined is to be told no. And so I carried on with my education. Initially, my grades weren't fantastic. I went on to do an HND before going on to do my LLB at Leicester Polytechnic at the time. I managed to get a 2-2. That was around the time that the Law Society finals, if you've heard of those, were just coming to an end. And unfortunately, I was not successful in getting onto the Law Society finals. And so I went off and did a master's in human rights and civil liberties before doing the first year of the LPC. And then it was time to get a job. And my name, Yetunde, tells you that I'm not white. And so for some time, I thought, let me change my name to Tina, because I thought if Tina, as an English name, could get me through the door, I would hope that my talent would then shine once I got an interview. That wasn't the case. I had a lever arch of rejections, and I was then fortunate enough to get a paralegal position at a legal aid firm. And from there, I got a training contract, qualified, and I decided that I didn't want a career in legal aid, and I decided to convert to private practice, and I am a litigator. So it's been interesting. My journey has been very interesting because for much of it, I've only been one of very, very few. And to a degree, that's still the case. I was fortunate enough to make partner in 2005. I practice in Birmingham, and fortunately in Birmingham, there are a number of Black partners, and so I had support around me. Moving on from there, I joined Trowse and Hamlins in 2011, and it was really probably in about 2016 when we really started having open and honest discussions about diversity. Now, diversity to me means more than race. It relates to every protected characteristic. And I would go as far as to say it relates to every single person because we are all different. No one person is the same. So those conversations that we've had at work have been very open and very honest. And I'm pleased to say that at our firm, we have a number of very senior partners that identify as LGBTQ+. We have a number of a great proportion of female partners, and so on. And so I very much feel that being in an open and diverse environment brings out the best in me. You may hear a term where people talk about bringing their whole selves to work if they want to. And what that means is that people can be who they really are at work. They don't have to hide things. They don't have to mimic other people in order to get ahead. And this is a very, very unique time. During my career, as a woman, as a Black woman, I have felt the need to almost act like one of the boys. And I can honestly say that that doesn't exist so much now, certainly not at my firm. I appreciate that it may exist in other parts of the legal profession. So in terms of just diversity in general, I'm very passionate about it. I am a champion. I am an ally to any protected characteristics. So I regularly go to Pride, and in fact, I organise Pride in our Birmingham office. I'm really excited for yourselves coming into the legal profession at such an exciting time. The murder of George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter movement has really blown the lid off the kinds of conversations that the legal profession is having at the moment. The Law Society is engaged in very, very open dialogue, and this is something that I've never experienced before, and so it really is very, very exciting. I very much hope that the journey that you will walk will be much different to mine, in that you will see diversity around you. So, for example, you will not just look around and see people of colour at the lower ends and, for example, at, cleaners, for example, and paralegals and so on. You will be able to look around and see yourself reflected in the various partnerships that you may be part of. As I've said, it's a conversation that is happening. It's extremely open. It's on social media. And you will have seen that a number of firms following the murder of George Floyd put out anti-racism statements. My challenge to you is to hold those firms to account. What we need to see is action. And I very much feel that if we see action in relation to the Black Lives Matter movement, it will open things up more generally. So I do welcome you to the profession when it comes. And one of the other things that is driving change is clients. So there are some really, really big clients out there that are demanding change. So, for example, they may say, we don't want to see all white male people when you come to tender for work. We want to see a diverse suite of people. Clients can obviously drive change because they're the ones that pay our fees. And if they turn around and say, I'm not going to give you any work unless you are diverse, unless you have stringent policies, that is a sure way of bringing about diversity more quickly than may have happened previously. So, for example, I do a lot of work for housing associations, and when I tender for work, they will always ask about diversity and inclusion. And the whole thing about diversity is not about just being diverse. So it's not about just seeing people of colour, people from other protected characteristics. It's about everybody having an opportunity to reach their full potential. So I am a regular speaker about diversity and inclusion issues. I also blog quite a lot on LinkedIn, and I'm quite open in my conversations. What I want to do when I leave the profession, which won't be, it will be pretty soon, is to leave a profession that's much more diverse, that's much more engaging, and that provides much more opportunity for everybody. I'm conscious of the time, so I will end there. Thank you. Okay, I believe that we are having technical issues, so I'm going to just go to the chat. Olu Watobi has asked, but can't clients also hinder? I guess in a way they can, because they may be, there are some sectors that are old school and will insist on behaving in a certain type of way. But I also challenge firms to actually be quite bold. So, for example, sexual harassment. You will hear stories about, people going out for drinks and so on, and clients being inappropriate. I don't believe in that. And I think that firms should sometimes think more about their employees and what they stand for, and say, actually, if that's your type of behaviour, we don't actually want to work with you.
Hi, thank you for being patient with the connectivity.
That's okay.
So I think they just expanded on the question, diversity, but ask for certain types of lawyer or a certain type of lawyer.
I think I will go by my experience. We place work based on the nature of the work and the expertise required for it. Yes, we have clients asking for people that they've built relationships with, but I've never heard of a situation where a client has turned around and said, well, I want an LGBT person, or I want a Black person to work on my work, and so on. So again, I go back to that point about firms being very bold. We've had conversations about behaviour and so on, and we have challenged clients about it. I appreciate that it's a money-driven business, but at the end of the day, I think firms need to be quite conscious about what they actually stand for and what their values are.
So you mentioned at the beginning some issues, for example, when applying to firms, obviously your name. Do you have any tips for people who feel like they're in a similar situation? Sort of any knowledge on how, or any motivation to obviously keep going, because you've obviously been very successful?
Yeah, I guess, yes, I have. But I'm nothing exceptional, if you know what I mean. I am just a woman who has kept striving. I would say to anybody that has a different name that is unusual, be quite clear, own your name. I gave up my name and I really regret that. I think own your name. There is a lot of discussion at the moment about blind CVs, etc. And I think that's taking more of a hold and will provide more opportunity, because firms are looking at their policies, their procedures, and looking to change them to make things a bit more, to make more of a level playing field. I now offer to pronounce my name for anybody who does not understand it. And again, I think the profession is becoming wise to that. So people will ask me how to pronounce your name properly, because I don't want to mispronounce it.
Yes, definitely. Victoria says, my experience of practice is that clients are more likely to drag law firms into being more diverse.
I think that's right. I think there was we had a lot of discussion in-house. I think there was in-house counsel at Aviva some years ago, basically sent an email to the panel firms saying quite openly, if you do not offer diversity, you will not get our work. And I think when it comes to money, that is the one thing that will get people to change, whether they like it or not, because otherwise they won't recover the fees that they would have been hoping to get. And who would want to be dropped? Who would want the to be splashed all over the media as being dropped because the firm was not diverse enough or couldn't offer a diverse set of people?
Victoria says you can also record your name and have the audio in your signature, which I think is great.
I think that's there is so many things. Next week, actually, I will have been qualified for 20 years. So I'm sure there are so many different things that have come along the way that I don't get the benefit of seeing. But my absolute passion is to, as I've said, make sure that certainly my firm is as diverse as possible. And the conversations that we've been having have been very open. And many years ago, I would not have said anything out of fear for losing my job. Right now, I feel that I owe it to everybody who's coming after me to make sure that I leave, when I leave, that the profession is in a much better shape.
A question from Isioma. Apologies if I pronounced your name wrong. Any thoughts on Sainsbury's and other retailers highlighting diversity in their Christmas ads?
Oh, well, that's been a topic of much discussion. It's amazing how, I wonder who the people who were making the derogatory remarks are, because everybody talks about diversity and inclusion, and then you see the comments, but from just featuring a Black family, you know, it's amazing. But I take my hat off to Sainsbury's, and Sainsbury's is a very diverse organisation, and it stands by it. And I'm glad that Sainsbury's came out and said what they said and stood by their advert. I'm aware of somebody who recorded an advert for another retailer, and having seen the fallout from the Sainsbury's advert, changed their advert, and I've lost respect for that organisation.
Yes. Is there a particular way about asking firms about their diversity policies beyond what's on their website? That's a good question.
I think so. You know, one of the things that I've seen happening is that people are not talking so much about the nature of the work. People are finding out, you know, if the firm's decent by association, the type of work that they receive must be good. But people are asking more about the culture, about diversity and inclusion, and certainly people have said that they've joined my firm because of that, or it's been one of the factors in their decision. And I get very excited when people are interested in diversity and inclusion. And I think be honest about it. Ask about it. How diverse is your organisation? What opportunities would I get? Can I see myself reflected at a senior level? Because I think if a business is open about it, you will know whether or not that's an organisation you want to be part of. If the firm is quite guarded about that information, then I question whether that organisation is the correct one for you.
I'm conscious we've run over time. There was just one more question from Anne, who says, in the absence of ethnic pay gap legislation, I'm guessing gender pay gap figures are potentially for a company's overall inclusiveness.
I guess it's an indicator. There's other indicators that are used. So, for example, if a firm is named on the Stonewall Index, and Stonewall monitors LGBTQ+, and there's a bit of a feeling that if an organisation is high up on that index, that they engage in, that they embrace diversity. I think keep an eye on the ethnicity pay gap, because I think at some point after the pandemic and after Brexit has all been resolved, I'm very much hoping that the government will make reporting mandatory in that respect. I'm pushing my firm to look into this now and have the conversation, and I'm happy that they've received that suggestion positively.
Thank you so much, Yetunde. That marks the end of this session. Please visit the main stage to hear the final remarks from Paul McFarlane. To join the main stage, you'll need to exit this session and join the stage tab. Thank you so much.
Thank you.